Yes, hello, good morning. Today's date is February something, 2026. Is that the 23rd or 24th? I'm not quite certain. One or the other. And this is Daniel here in Ottawa, Daniel and Jennifer Fitzgerald. I'm rather disappointed that, I posted 3 videos last month. I informed the Russian Federation government here of the videos, and they never bothered to even have a look at them. And it just goes to show that international community member states argue and accuse each other at the UN Security Council of, human rights violations and genocide, right? But when an entire city of Ottawa and all the international member states here who claim human rights and that they believe in human rights and that they believe in being held accountable for international criminal law of the UN. The bottom line is that these member states here are against all that. My wife and I's case has been now 20 years of a 20-year file of Canada's governments and their allies and their gangs, their neo-Nazis, attacking my wife and I all across the country in every city, town, and village, even, on what we felt was the freedom of the waterway here in Ontario and Quebec to live on our boat on the waterway all year round. But even on the waterway, a 20-year file in my head and my wife's between our 2 ears. As a result of all this for 20 years, my wife and I, we know the factual circumstances of what the United Nations in New York City, the General Assembly and Permanent Council truly represent. Absolutely. Canada is an organized criminal state, a criminal state of criminal gangs across the country who have basically taken all of our provinces and sectioned them off as gang territory. It's one big gang system here, and it's very supported by the Canadian House of Commons on Wellington and their opposition parties. Okay, they're supporting the gang structure in Canada. The government of Canada and their provinces is supporting laundered money collection, and that's where Canada gets where the governments of Canada get most of their money from. The money the federal government gets is laundered money from the international criminal drug trade and other criminal activities throughout the world. After 20 years, I consider myself to be an expert. I will state also that briefly that what Edward Snowden tried to state in his Hong Kong hotel back in, I think it was 2011, 12, something like that, about what was going on in the United States government, Booz Allen, and so on, and also Julian Assange and his statements. I would say that Julian Assange and Edward Snowden know very little. Julian Assange definitely knows far more than Edward Snowden does. Julian Assange and myself can relate on several topics regarding the governments, okay? There is no human rights standard by member states of the UN, although you can go online and read the UN Human Rights Code. You can go online to Google and you can look up the Rome Statutes, Articles 6, 7, and 8, which at least NATO states claim that they don't violate the Rome Statutes, when in fact Canada's violated them repeatedly against my wife and I. The United States government has violated the Rome Statutes as well against American citizens. The British have violated the Rome Statutes against their own citizens. And well, not all of them, because one of them, 6, 7, or 8, is violations of the Rome Statutes under Articles of War. So one of them doesn't quite fit the profile, but the other 2 definitely do. There's no such thing as human rights. None. We live in a gangster world where, politicians of the UN are all gang members, okay? All of them have their own interests on the Permanent Council: China, Russia, the United States, Great Britain, and France. These are gangsters, and they're also Nazis. Except for the Russians and the Chinese, they're not Nazis. It is truly biblical tribulation. This is what's going on. This is one of the reasons why, for 20 years, my wife and I are hated everywhere, because from a biblical perspective, the facts speak for themselves, that my wife and I are faced with people, millions of people, okay? Not a few, millions, who are all essentially antichrist and are following the antichrist, including their leaders. The degree of lies by these leaders is just really something. I'm really quite shocked. In Canada, these prime ministers do not represent one thing they're saying, okay? But it's all now biblical tribulation, and that has a lot to do with why my wife and I are actually hated. So, truly, the few Christians that are with God, the true Christians that believe in Jesus and believe in everything he said, including the Torah, I might add, the which is the Old Testament, and so it's the Old Testament and the New Testament in my case, in our case, where both are true. But what's happened in the religious world is they are sick and twisted Jesus Christ. They've twisted him. They've twisted God. They've twisted the laws. They have twisted the religious community. The religious community, there's synagogues, not all, and churches, some, not all, have become extremely corrupted and dangerous and represent evil, as opposed to, and essentially what has happened regarding this is that the Christian church system, we have, pastors who are going to college and university to get a pastoral degree, so that they can become employed in the Christian church system as pastors. The problem is the kind of pastors that have been coming out of the universities. Okay, many of them support criminal activities. You have biker types who are getting licensed as pastors, pro-government pastors who are evil against Jesus Christ, as well as God and the Torah. It's just really getting bad. So why am I doing this video? Well, I'm taking some time out this morning. I guess I had a good sleep last night. So from a religious perspective, okay, it's what's going on in our world is biblical. It's a combination of the book of Revelation and the Torah, what is actually going on. Leaders know the end is coming. They know, I explain that all you have to do as a Christian, a real Christian that is, who really does have faith, is read Luke 21. Jesus said the earth would be disturbed by the moon, the sun, and the stars, which has been going on. Look how big the moon is. Super moons, you can almost touch the craters on them. You only need binoculars to have a view of the surface of the moon, and you can even see objects on the surface of the moon left there from the Apollo missions. That's how well a binocular during a super moon event, which is every month now, by the way. Jesus said the earth would be disturbed by the moon, the sun, and the stars. The sun is spitting solar flares at our planet, threatening our magnetosphere and so on. Very strong tremors from the sun. Jesus mentioned that. He said the moon, the sun, and the stars, okay? And we have asteroids coming at us. These are stars. Stars are suns and other planets. That's what, when Jesus said the earth would be disturbed by the moon, the sun, and the stars. Stars are planets and suns, which means that our planet will be disturbed by other planets coming in close to us and their stars, which is exactly what has also been going on, but the governments are hiding it. We've had numerous encounters already with huge rogue planets swinging by the Earth very closely, even within satellite range, okay? this has been going on for a while, and the governments are hiding that. We've had huge asteroids just barely touch us. There's already been a number of times when planets have crossed the tail of our planet, the exhaust of our planet, as we go in the other direction around the sun, just missing us. We have had planets coming up just missing Antarctica by a hair, okay? This is how bad it actually really is. And this is happening all the time. So what I'm saying here is that what Jesus said in Luke 21 about in the end time, the earth being disturbed by the moon, the sun, and the stars, is proven, okay? The politicians of this earth and governments are keeping it a secret, okay? They hate Jesus, okay? They cannot stand him because what he said is going to happen is happening, and none of them are obeying him at all. To obey Jesus means to obey God's 10 commandments. It means all the commandments. Thou shalt not kill is a big one. Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's property. Thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt honor thy father and thy mother, and so on, the commandments. But number one is to love the Lord your God with all your heart and soul. These leaders don't love God at all. They're a bunch of demonic, possessed individuals, and they are possessed. And this video is directed to the Catholic Vatican here in Ottawa, to Father Jim. This video is dedicated to him and the Vatican. Okay, there are different forms of demonic possession. We know the story of Jesus going up to a man who he was asked to go to him because the man was possessed by demons, right? And when Jesus went up to him and kneeled to him, and he was on the ground, he heard the demons. And he said, "Who art thou in this man?" And a voice came out of the man saying, "We are many legions." And the demons even said to him, they said, "O Son of Man." And Jesus cast them out. The demons said to Jesus, "Cast us out." And they did. He did. He cast them out into pigs, and the pigs jumped off the cliffs. Now, that's a form of demonic possession, okay? Similar to demonic possessions that the Vatican in Rome has sent priests to in this generation in time. I've seen videos of demonic possession. There are priests who are specially trained to go in with their Bibles and holy water and try and cure people possessed. I've seen a few videos of this live actually happening, which were released by some priests. And in one case, it was a young girl in a bed in a basement, and she was able to climb the walls. She was able to levitate. She was able to twist her body in reverse and bend her spine to the point where it should have broken. Now, these are forms of demonic possession that the church accepts as demonic possession. The problem here is there's other kinds of demonic possession which do not require physical attributes, okay? Like Lorraine and Ed Warren, okay? Who dealt with demonic possessions when they were alive. It's the physical concept of the demon in the body, like upside down crosses appearing under the skin, bleeding from the eyes and nose, vomiting, various physical bodily maneuvers that are actually impossible, levitations, climbing up walls, spitting at priests, okay, and screaming at them and hating them. That's a form of demonic possession, but there is another form of demonic possession with no demonic physical attributes. What form of demonic possession is this, Vatican? Well, this form of demonic possession is in the House of Commons. They're all demonically possessed by Satan, okay? I've arrived at this conclusion. I have lots of evidence to back it up. I have lots of evidence to back up what I say. And the people following the governments of Canada, okay, in with them, are demonically possessed. All the gangs are in with Satan. Satan has recruited every single criminal organization in Canada and the governments and the police. That's what has happened. And I have proof of this as well. So, what's my message? Well, listen, Vatican, when it's very clear that Jesus spoke the truth over 2,000 years ago in Luke 21 about the moon, the sun, and the stars. And he said oceans roaring. The oceans will be roaring. That's coming, okay? And governments know it's him. These leaders, your colleagues in New York City, the Observer Vatican Mission in New York City for the UN, you all know that the Pope knows. That said, the leaders know. So what the leaders decided to do was hate Jesus and reject him. This is called for in Mr. Prime Minister Mark Carney's bills pertaining to having demonic possessed police attack the Christian community. We've had in Canada 150 churches have been burned down. One just the other day in Montreal. Why is this happening? Well, there's two possibilities here. It's either one or the other or a combination of both. Some of the churches are corrupted with pastors who are not religious but committing evils. Some of these churches have been invaded by criminal gangs, but biker gangs and so on. While at the other end, the churches are being burned because these people hate Christ because of Luke 21. Now, if these politicians in the UN, the General Assembly and the Permanent Council, along with perhaps, shall we say, Canada's government, if they're not possessed by Satan, then why are they not abiding in God? Why are they not? Why do they hate Christ? Well, we know what Christ said, right? He said at the end time, he said in Luke 21, in Mark, Matthew, Luke, and John, actually, that he said, they shall cast you up to synagogues to be judged, he said. Some of you will be cast into prison. Others of you will be put to death because of me. And others of you I should give the wisdom to speak. What he meant by that is the wisdom to speak meant he would give the wisdom to speak to those that he selected who would speak in such a way that they would not be condemned by the synagogues. These synagogues here in Ottawa, Father Jim, the government, through evil connections to evil rabbis in the synagogues here, tried to cast me up for judgment to the synagogues. The synagogues here sided with the government against all my criminal evidence of crimes they've committed against us, them and their security for 20 years, including criminal acts against my wife and I's children. They tried to kill our daughter in the hospital in 2006, Father Jim. I told you this when she was born, what they did, because of Paxil Wellbutrin, all right? They tried to murder me twice, Father, in Toronto. A police officer here in 2017, Father Jim, tried to run my wife over in his police car with absolute intent. Okay, she came home shaken. That's never happened to her before. He did not have his emergency lights on, nothing. The police told her they would find the car and driver. She filed a report. 2 weeks later, they told her no such car and driver existed. Well, that was a lie. Okay, so they destroyed all our property. They went after our boat named after Jacob's Ladder, destroyed it. They went after our second boat, Jacob's Goshen, Father Jim, named after Goshen in Egypt thousands of years ago, where my people, the Jewish people, were held in bondage in Egypt, okay? What does that say about Canada? It's one thing, Father Jim, for the international community to completely ignore my wife and I's 20-year criminal case, which describes the true nature of Canada, and that Canada is a demonic, criminally run country, okay, where all the gangs have all the freedoms. All the gangs are untouchable. They are untouchable. Listen to me, Father Jim, don't listen to the news, okay, where the police are saying we go after gangs. It's theater, Father Jim. It's pretend. Absolutely pretend. I'll tell you why. Because we tried to file reports, Father Jim, of organized criminal gangs in the jails who tried to murder me in 2009 on my first offense because I threatened Dalton McGuinty by email when I was drunk and intoxicated from another province. The gangs tried to murder me in their detention centers in Toronto. Gangs. Gangster guards, Nazi skinhead guards. Father, do you understand? And I direct this to you. And that's what happened. And they tried to gas me with a barbecue, playing German polka music in my cell, which I think I already mentioned. When I finally got out in 2009, I filed a police report, Father, on instruction from a major crime section police officer with the major crime section of the Toronto Police. I filed this less than a month after I got out. The police covered it up. Okay? Came to Ottawa, told the American government of neo-Nazi balls and gang members in together as guards in Toronto, Canada's detention centers. All of them trying to kill me, Father. Okay? Literally. My wife was a witness to this. And they covered it up. All of it. The Hells Angels in Quebec, Father, with a mayor of Lacolle, Quebec, Canada, Hells Angel named Sean Major, from Sorel, ganged up on my wife and I with his police friends, smashed up our boat in a boatyard in 2011-12 in Lacolle, Quebec. My wife and I did what we could do. We made up a journal. We took photos as the damage was done to our boat in the boatyard on blocks. We tried to file a police report, Father Jim. They arrested me, accused me of threatening their mayor, which I never did. Okay? And my wife also gave the file to DHS at their border in Lacolle, Quebec, to Buttermore and Bayshard. She wanted it sent directly to the head of the Department of Homeland Security in Washington. They never sent it there. And I informed DHS in Washington at that time that our file, that, daily journals and photographs, Father, for police investigation, my wife and I did act and kept a journal, photographs of damage, the dates the damage happened, and events. Okay? It was all covered up. What do you call the Canadian government, Father Jim, and their police? The police were involved, Father, in committing the crimes. Okay? It's that bad. What you hear in the media about what happened, Father, in Toronto, about over the course of the last few weeks, about police chiefs catching 7 police officers who were involved in giving information on private citizens to street gangs so they could harass and threaten and murder them. The police have been doing that to my wife and I, Father, for 20 years. All everywhere. It's not simply isolated to what we saw on television. My wife and I repeat this. I'm going to stop this video in a moment and upload it, but you need to understand, Father Jim, and the Vatican embassy here needs to absolutely understand that under international law, I want to remind, respectfully, the Vatican embassy here and you and your colleagues and the Archbishop that under Article 2425, Father, of the UN, and you can look it up yourself, the Vatican can, my wife and I are definitely entitled to asylum under Article 24 and 25. Now, there's many Article 24 and 25s. I believe this one is under the OHCHR. Do I have that right? And this Article 24-25, Father, states that victims who are witnesses to organized crime have a right to request protection by the UN. Well, I'm making that request to you, Father Jim, in the Vatican with this video, that we request, Father Jim, protection under Article 24-25 of the UN, because my wife and I have been witnesses, Father, to organized criminal activities against us for 20 years, and we know how much it has spread in Canada, and we know the government's in on it and the police in on it, Father Jim. My wife and I have enough on Canada to have Canada sanctioned repeatedly by the UN. Russia and China, Father Jim, here, their embassies, tricked my wife and I into providing them evidence that they covered up for Canada as well. This is the Russian and Chinese embassies on Patrick Street and Charlotte. And the American consulate did the same. We gave them 2 packages of documents, Father, once in 2012 when we came from Quebec. And then I gave them a secondary package with additional crimes against us since the previous one in 2012. From 2012 to 2020, There were more crimes against us, which created a larger file. The Americans were updated with that file. That file was supposed to go to the FBI in Albany, New York. I talked with them on the phone. They were willing to have a look at our file, okay? And the file was also to go to the White House for President Donald Trump in his last term. However, I didn't realize that Donald Trump was an organized criminal. And of course, he would block such a file from being reviewed both by the FBI of the United States, and he would dump it, which is exactly what the American Embassy did. The American Embassy turned around. The file was addressed to the FBI in Albany, New York, and also to President Trump. The American Embassy here said they would send it. They never did. They received the file by courier. They admitted they did. They gave it back to Canada. The term that they used to give it back to Canada is, it's an abbreviated name for Canadian security. If I remember it, I'll tell you on the phone. So our criminal case, Father, has been covered up for 20 years against Canada from member states of the international community here. There are states that we did, like we got a copy of the file to, in 2018, Father Jim, to the Egyptian embassy here, prior to the new embassy that Canada built for them. How nice. Yeah, the Egyptian embassy at that time was just a little house just up the street from the Russian embassy on Laurier, a block away. We gave them a copy of the file with information on how to contact us. They accepted it. The Egyptian embassy, we just walked in. And then we never heard from them. We approached some other governments, Father, but we found out that what was going on in some cases was these embassies were carrot dangling our file formally and quietly to the Canadian government, essentially saying to them, well, what will you give us if we just dump this? Like they wanted something. Okay, that's what happened. That's the true nature, Father, of UN member states here. You give them criminal evidence. If you're a Canadian citizen, you give them criminal evidence that falls under international criminal law and not Canada's internal system, but go outside of that due to the nature of the crimes. And you give it to an embassy here, right? Oh yeah, sure, we'll take it. They sell it to the Canadian government in either trade deals or some kind of under-the-table agreement. We went to the Australian High Commissioner as well, Father. I offered him our evidence package asking Australia for its help. They sent me an email telling me not to contact them again. They said this is an unofficial request. Then I find out a couple of days later that just prior to my approaching the Australian government, Father here, my wife and I approaching them, that the Australian government and Great Britain just cut a three-way trade deal with Canada. I often wondered if that had something to do with the rejection by the Australian High Commission here. Logically, it did. There's no other possibility. Okay. So this video really is for the Vatican Embassy. Also, Father Jim, I will call you perhaps maybe today or tomorrow. I was going to call you yesterday. I couldn't. There was a problem here at home, so I could not call you at that time. There's something going on here with my wife. So I will be calling you, and I will mention this video to you. It'll be titled "To the Vatican Embassy here in Ottawa" for your viewing pleasure. I'll give you the details on the phone how to get to YouTube, because I also need to know, Father, from the Vatican Embassy here if you're able to access my videos. Okay, I think that's fair. And ending this short video, Father Jim, I will tell you right now, okay, I'm very gifted with visions in my sleep, and they're coming from Jesus Christ and angels and God, and sometimes it's by voice, other times it's by voice, and they'll show me something bad that's going to happen to the planet or to a given government or governments. I don't lie about that. And I will tell you, Father Jim, that I saw a video on YouTube of a little girl. She was 3 years old, and Jesus spoke to her. And I listened intently to what that little girl said. about what Jesus had told her, Father Jim, and I'm here to tell you that what she said is 100% true, because what Jesus told her, Father Jim, and what Jesus told her was going to happen to this planet is exactly a clone copy of the visions that I had, many of them. Okay, the governments of Father keep trying to, they're deceiving their peoples, their populaces, trying to maintain a position of a non-religious position where the future's nice and bright. Yeah, the future's going to be bright, all right. We're going to get hit with asteroids, Father, and tidal waves, and this is going to nail these evil peoples and governments who are in with the mob and neo-Nazism and the lies to their own citizens on a massive scale. So, I point this video for the Vatican Embassy, Father. It's a brief, that's all. My wife and I are entitled to asylum, Father Jim, and we demand it. And we also demand, Father Jim, that our evidence can get to the media. We ask the Vatican, Father Jim, to respect international law, respect Article 24 and 25 of the UN Charter, giving my wife and I a right, Father, to asylum and protection under Article 24-25. If we're granted asylum here, Father, by an international community member state in their embassy, that's when we will disclose by personal interview, recorded interview of everything that happened, what they did to us here in Canada, along with other governments related to the Canadian government, assisting them for the last 20 years. And that's what my wife and I want. Okay? It's that simple. I'd like to remind the Vatican Embassy too, Father, here that Canadians have a right to request asylum, just like anyone else. Okay? But we should have been granted asylum, Father, by a foreign government ages ago. What we found out is that the foreign governments, all the governments of the UN, Father, all of them, cover up each other's atrocities against their own citizens. All these foreign embassies, Father, in different countries, the UK, the United States, Washington, D.C., London, Berlin, Germany, Paris, France, Father Jim. All these foreign embassies all work together, and their ambassadors in these countries, to cover up the crimes of the host country government against its people. This is what's been going on with the UN. They're all protecting each other, Father, and giving each other cover. In serious cases where the evidence is overwhelming against a member state of the UN, and the victims, like my wife and I, have overwhelming evidence, Father Jim, they all band together to help Canada cover up the evidence which could destroy the government of Canada and the political parties involved in these crimes, which is the Liberals and the Conservatives. And I better go, cut it short. I don't want to use too much data. Let me tell you something, Father Jim, there's more to God than what you know and the Pope knows. I want you to understand too that God is not of some of the thinking of the churches. What does this mean? And nor is Jesus. Well, look, Father, he chose me to be his prophet. Why me? He could have chose you. He could have chose a man of the cloth, whether a rabbi or, a Catholic priest or a pastor's absolutely faithful, right? Why didn't he choose one of you? You people don't get mad, Father Jim. I mean, religious deacons don't get mad and swear and cuss, right? Christian priests and rabbis don't feel like they want to murder the people who did this to them, like I often have felt. You people are just so perfect, so why would God pick such an imperfect person as myself? I use swear words all the time when I get really angry. And I hate the people that did this to us. And it's the same people that murdered 20,000 children in Gaza, Father Jim, little children and their parents. the same people. Okay? But again, why would God choose me? Why not choose you? Why not choose a priest? I'm not a priest, Father. You know, I'm not a pastor. I'm not a rabbi. So, but why did he choose me over all of you? And I say that as more of a question. Like, it's not, I'm not being insulting at all. I am not like you, Father Jim. I'm not like a Catholic priest or a pastor that's clean. I am not like you. But I realized, Father Jim, something. God chooses his prophets, Father Jim, not based on what kind of people they are on the surface, right? He doesn't choose prophets, Father, this way. He doesn't look for perfection to choose a prophet. He'll choose anybody. The criteria simply is someone who may not have the surface characteristics, okay, of current religious thinking or circles. He'll pick someone, Father, based on their emotional strength and what is truly in their hearts, as opposed to their surface personality. In order to be a prophet of God, Father Jim, he is going to show you things in your sleep, okay? And these things that he shows you are quite horrifying. He shows you things he's going to do, God, right? And they're horrifying. I mean, horrifying. And you have to have, you have to have a certain, apologize. You have to have a certain emotional strength, Father, that no other human has on earth. And either you're gifted with that or you're not. Do you understand? I will, and I'm not, there's no bragging rights here, Father. There are those who, in religious circles, Father, especially in the Orthodox Jewish religion, they know I'm a prophet of God. The rabbis here know. And there are some pastors that know as well. They know I am. And there's government officials at the very top, Father, who know that I'm a prophet. And I've been a prophet, Father, since 2011. And all the prophecies, Father, that I had, okay, from God in my sleep, in 2011, 12, 13, and 14, were all formally indicated what those prophecies were and what I saw to the State Department in Washington. Now, at that time, the public wasn't talking about any of this, of what I saw. No one. No children. No one was contacted by Jesus, children or otherwise, to be given prophecies, okay? It was only me, all by myself. Now, since then, some 10 or more years later, all of a sudden, my prophecies that I gave in 2011, 12, 13, and 14 are all becoming a reality in the minds of people. Okay? Being a prophet, Father, is not easy in many ways because, number one, you're hated. And all the governments want to kill you because you're siding with God against them in the prophecies he showed you and their punishment to come. And the people that follow them's punishment as well to come. So number one is they end up hating you. Okay? This happened thousands of years ago, Father. My forefathers, Father, Daniel, Isaiah, and the other ones are all my forefathers. They were prophets chosen by God. And believe me, Father, they were not perfect men. They were not little men who just sat in the middle of the desert by their camel praying to God. It wasn't quite that simple. They loved God, but believe me, Father, their characters, you would reject them just on their character alone. But God didn't reject them. He made them powerful and prophets. Something that, Father, goes against the current religious system of all of you. And thousands of years ago, Father Jim, God chose a prophet, okay, to prophesy against the Jewish people in Israel, because they and their kings were not honoring God's commandments and not honoring the Torah, not honoring the laws, okay? So he picked a prophet who was faithful in him to go to the kings of Israel and the people and tell them that God is going to punish them, all of them, for walking away from him and his laws. And they murdered these prophets because of their prophecies, the kings of Israel and the people. And God saw them that they kept doing this, murdering his prophets. So one day, Father Jim, God turned around and said, "No more shall I allow you to murder my prophets." Do you understand? So I'm protected. He protected me by making me his prophet. They can't kill me. They can't. He won't let them. Thank goodness for that. That's a gift. This is some of the things. Some of the rewards for being his prophet. And you don't have to be perfect. Believe me, you don't. I'm not perfect. Believe me, I'm not perfect. But I love him, no matter what. And I love Jesus as well. And there are two, Father. There's not one. Okay? The Vatican is making a big mistake pushing this theory that Jesus is God, because he's not. I'm sorry, I disagree. There's two of them. There's God and there's the Son. My Bible, Father Jim, okay, listen to me, is a Prince James Bible. Now, I thought, Father, that my Bible, I was looking and researching my Bible, based to look for the age, and I drew the conclusion that my Bible was printed in 1882. Okay? I've got it here. All right? Then I found out, I did more research more recently, Father, and my Bible was printed in 1779, and there was a run of them. So my Bible's over 200 years old. Okay? Now, Jesus said, Father, to his disciples, I'll remind the Vatican of this. I remember his disciples went to him, one of them or two of them, and said, "Master, we should pray to you." Okay? Something like that. All right, Father Jim? And Jesus turned around and said, "No, and do not pray to me. Pray to my Father who is in heaven." Okay? So that simply means, Father, there's two of them. It doesn't disregard the power of Jesus Christ. On the contrary, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying, Father, is there's two. The Son and the Father. So there's Jesus and the Father, and they sit together on the throne. Okay? Jesus is not, Father Jim, God. Okay? He is the Son of God. He has some of the powers of God, right? He has power over the earth and judgment. That's his job. And to carry out those judgments according to the Father's will. And I hope he starts to carry them out soon, Father, because the evils by governments, in particular the American president, is making me sick to my stomach, along with Canada, okay, and China and Russia. The evils and lies by these heads of state are making me sick, okay, literally. So I pray every night that God comes, Father, to shake this city, and he's coming when I leave. He's coming here to repay them. Let me tell you a story, Father Jim. In St. Jean-sur-Richelieu, in 2014-15, we were on our boat, Jacob's Goshen, okay, living on the river. They had plotted to attack us, Father, in our boat, okay? So I prayed to God one night. I prayed every night on my boat, Father, and I had my Prince James Bible, and I prayed. I used my Bible as my pillow, okay? And God came to me in my sleep. And do you know what he said to me? I'm going to tell you. He said, "I'm going to kill all 28,000 people around you with a plague in 4 hours. They'll all die within 4 hours." He also gave me another vision, Father. He was going to hit them, St. Jean sur Richelieu, at Quebec, with huge, huge tornadoes and destroy their city with tornadoes. Do you understand? Now, he didn't do that. It didn't happen. And the reason why it didn't happen was because we decided to leave with our boat and come to Ontario. I was headed for my mom, who was elderly. I wanted to see her before she died. She was already, 80, 84, 85 already. And we wanted to see her. So we were leaving Quebec on our boat, okay? And that's why he didn't do it. He was going to kill them all for me and my wife. So then, after we left St. Jean sur Richelieu, Quebec in 2015, in September, October, in our boat, headed for Chambly, headed for the St. Lawrence River, headed for Montreal, we made it to Rigaud, Quebec. They were EMPing my boat's engine right through Montreal, through Lake St. Louis, toward Rigaud. They EMP'd the engine of my boat. It kept shutting off. The reason why is because the Carillion dam lock was going to close in October 12th, I think. They were trying to delay us until the dam closed, so we couldn't use the lock to get up into the Ottawa Basin. That's what they did. Do you understand? And so we ended up the winter of 2015 in Rigaud, Quebec, where the Hells Angels motorcycle gang that runs that town, along with the police who were in with them, decided that they were going to do everything they could, Father, to frame us with crimes, okay, to hold us in Quebec. That order came from Parliament Hill. Do you understand? Okay. And they tried to frame me, Father. Quebec tried to frame me, Father, 4 times for things I never did. I thought you should know. So they picked on us in Rigaud, Quebec. We were before we had our boat in 2012-13, we were in Quebec City. Okay, and we were in a smaller boat than a wood boat that we had. We traveled there from St. Jean sur Richelieu in 2013. And we ended up in Lévis on the beach with our boat, with Winter, our little 17-foot cabin cruiser. And they started picking on us there. They started coming after us. Hold on. Hello, I'm back. I'm sorry. I just left the video going because I just had to go to the bathroom and I didn't want to stop it, because if I stop it, I got to record a new one and upload 2 of them instead of 1. So they pulled the same things in Rigaud, and they pulled this in Lévis, Quebec in 2014, Father. They pulled the same garbage. It was gangs and the police. The gangs and the police, Father, shaved their heads. That's how you can tell. They shaved their hair off. They've been recruited, you see, into the police gang structure. And this is everywhere. And then once the recruitment's over, they regrow their hair, and you can't tell that they've been recruited. Anyway, when they started harassing us in Lévis when we got there, the police, Father, gangs, I had a vision. I had a vision of 200-foot tidal waves coming up the St. Lawrence River from the Gulf of St. Lawrence, hitting their bridges and knocking cars off the bridges that high. I thought you should know. So what I'm saying here is that basically, Father, is that my Father, let them off the hook each time, right? You know, he didn't kill them all in St. Jean sur Richelieu, as he said he was going to. He didn't kill them all in Rigaud. And we came here to escape Quebec because they were trying to kill us through criminal frame-ups so they could get me in jail or in a psychiatric ward and murder me there, as they tried to do in Toronto in 2008-9. Okay? So we came to Ottawa. We've been here 9 years. Okay? And they've tried to pull the same things here. The government and their police and gangs. And they've committed crimes here, Father. So I prayed and prayed about this here. For the last 4.5 years, I kept praying to God to do something. Then Father, an angel came to me by voice in my sleep one night after I prayed, blew out my menorah, put my kip in my pocket, and I prayed. And in my sleep, an angel came to me, Father, and said, leave that city and get as far away from it as you can. That's what he said. Now, when I woke up from the vision, Father, I knew that God is going to destroy Ottawa, this city, because of what they did to my wife and I, that he's had enough. And he realizes that no matter where we go, Father, from here, in every city, we're targeted. Now he's going to do something about it. And this is going to be the first city to go, for my sake. I'll tell you, Father, this, before I go. I'm at 51 minutes. I got to upload it. I'll tell you this, Father Jim. Listen to me. You can share this with the Archbishop. I appreciate it if you would. When Jesus said, Father, he said, if you have enough faith in God, you can move mountains. I'm here to tell you, Father, that's absolutely true. And when I leave here with my wife, Father, in a couple of months, expect the worst here. You understand, Father Jim? It'd be wise for the Vatican embassy to close shop and leave this city, because Father's coming to rock and roll them, and I mean real bad. You understand? And I know, Father, about the rapture, things that you don't know, nor the Vatican, the truth. Okay? I'm not going to explain it at this time in this video. I'll call you with this video. I'll tell you where to see this video. The title of the video will be a message to the Vatican in Rome through the Vatican embassy here in Ottawa. That's the title of the video. Okay? Then I'll give you the details how to access it on YouTube, you and the Archbishop and your colleagues. And you can review this video. And then, Father, I will call you because I'm going to ask you if you were able to access this video. If you were not, if the Vatican embassy could not, then that means you were blocked. The Church, Father, the Vatican, what I have to say, really, frankly, Father Jim, I should be communicating with Pope Leo directly, all right, and the cardinals, because what I have to say, Father, is extremely important. I have a lot to tell, okay, about the visions, about God, about the truth, Father Jim, about what God is really all about and how he functions and operates, the truth. And I have no problem sharing that with religious men who are really religious and want to know, okay? I have no interest in sharing them with corrupted religious people, and I'm going to tell you that right now. None. I will not share it with people claiming to be of God and Jesus who are not. I've seen a lot of that, Father Jim. I have seen a lot of fake churches. Let me tell you something, Father. Those of God, I'll give you a rule here, okay? This is the rule. Those of God, Father, are against the governments. Those of God, Father, God the Father, Father, are against the police and have nothing to do with them because they're evil, okay? People of God, Father Jim, are separated from the governments and their system. You understand, for the most part. That's me, my wife. and they hate us. And they hate us, Father, because God has separated us from them. The other thing I'd like to mention to you, Father, because, the Prince James Bible, I don't know now, but it used to contain the Old Testament, okay? And my bloodline, Father, direct bloodline, is Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, directly, and the prophets, all right? Including Noah, Methuselah, Enoch. These are all, Father, related to me by blood. Do you understand this? I would like you the church to understand that, okay? And that my Jewish side, Father, is from the Levites. I'm a Levite. Do you understand? All right? Which puts me in the high priest category of the Torah. Which means my forefather, Father Jim, bloodline is Aaron. You know him, right? And what did God say, Father Jim, to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob? And let me remind you what he said to all three. He told them, do not fall under the rulership of any Gentile kingdom, or king. Do not move in with them into their cities and become part of their society and intermix with them, because they shall surely be a snare unto you. You recognize this statement, Father Jim, from God to his people. The church's, Father, led people to believe, the Gentile peoples to believe, that Adam and Eve were the first humans on earth. No, they were not. They were not the first humans on earth. When Cain, Father Jim, slain Abel, okay, and God marked him and kicked him out of Eden. Cain went to another city, Father, a Gentile city, and married a woman there. Which means that the human race, Father, was here before Adam and Eve. Which means, Father Jim, corrected, means that God created Adam and Eve. In other words, God, Father Jim, created his own race of people amongst the Gentile populations that were already in existence at that time period. And these people were for himself, for his laws. I better go, that's enough. I'm at 57 minutes. Shalom, Father Jim. You asked me to pray for you. Why? I'm curious. Pray for you for what reason? Did you do something you shouldn't have done? I'm just being frank. I don't know. Sure, I pray for you. But I pray, Father, for God's wrath and justice against the governments and the police and their filthiness and disgust all around the globe, Father Jim. All around the globe. They need punishment. Okay? You watch the world when they see Ottawa smoking, and I mean smoking. Then you'll know, Father, the Father has arrived. Anyway, God bless, Father Jim. And again, I'll call you to ask you if you were able to access this video.